Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of Chat with myself, Bryan Kearney. This is the podcast that focuses on the experience of artists in the dance scene over the past 12 months. Delighted to be joined today by my good friend, DJ producer Sneijder. Liggy, how are you, man?
Good, mate. Good to see you. It's been a while. Nearly a year since we've spoke face to face, actually. Albeit virtually now. But yeah, it's been John's wedding, I think was the last time, wasn't it? So
yeah, that's right,
nearly a year now.
I know, that was the last time. I think it was the same I was saying to Brendan last week, Factor B, on last week's show. The show from 2 weeks ago was John's wedding was the last time that I was sort of around anyone. Or it was like the last sort of social gathering that I was at or anyone was at. And it's a recurring theme. And the question within this show is just like how much the world and how much our lives have changed over the past 12 months. It's insane. So
yeah, it's absolutely crazy, man. I don't even know how to put it into words how the last 12 months has been for me, actually. But you know, kicking things off, my last gig was in Transmission in Australia, which, you know, was obviously an unbelievable gig. So we were coming down off a high off that, and then John's wedding, and then, you know, the gig started falling out of the calendar around March time. And I sort of took it with a pinch of salt, to be honest. You know what I mean? I thought like it was going to last 6 months. I knew the virus was a threat, but I didn't think it was going to go on this long, obviously. And, you know, I think it was just testing the water like everybody else and just seeing how things went. But the stage it's got to now is just absolutely ridiculous. And I think we're like, in the industry that we're in, we're like bottom of the heap whenever things is going to come back. Because our career and our lives and what we do depends on so many different factors, you know, like traveling, country
social
restrictions, social distancing, flights, packed clubs. Like, we are bottom of the heap when you think about it. And I don't want to sound like a killjoy, but I think it's going to be a while before it comes back to the way it was, where we're just hopping around every country under the sun over a weekend. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be like that for a long time.
Yeah, that's why I sort of felt when I saw that ASA have announced their show for obviously I don't know whether I'm going to be playing at it now, but it was really good for me to see that there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and especially for it being such a large scale event. And the thing for me as well is that with it being in Holland is a very forward thinking liberal country, and they sort of it's not like where dance music is looked down upon. It's like it's seen as one of the main exports from their own country, and they use it for their tourism and they use it for everything.
They're proud of it. They're really proud
absolutely.
of it.
So I'm sure like maybe the Dutch government are working alongside ASA to try and make things progress and move forward. Whereas compared to Ireland, Jesus Christ, man, they have no interest in anybody in the entertainment industry or anything like that. They have absolutely no idea how any of this stuff is going to come back or a logical way out of this. And look, I understand we're going through a pandemic and there's far more important things than people going to a nightclub or going to events to enjoy themselves. But it would just, I'd just say fair play to the Dutch for looking like they're trying to find a way out of it and giving people an opportunity to look forward to, rather than being just stuck. And where it just feels like we're just stuck here.
I know, man. Listen, if there's an event going to happen anywhere in Europe first, it's going to be there. You know,
absolutely,
the Dutch have, like you said, have always been so forward thinking in terms of dance music, and so accommodating, and it's sort of like they have a pride around it, and you know, they're not afraid to show the world how proud they are of their artists, and Ireland and UK in general is just like dinosaurs when it comes to that sort of thing. You know, the very scene that we live in, I think I put this on Twitter, it was born out of rebellion against these very people and their attitudes. Do you know what I mean? Like the underground raves and all the, you know, the parties back in the early 90s and, you know, late 80s were all illegal, and it was born out of frustration and born out of sort of rebellion. So nothing has changed, man. And like, for me, the revenue that that dance music brings through tourism and through everything else is just ridiculous, and for them not to address it and just leave people to basically rot and fend for themselves, for me it's disgusting, man. Like,
yeah, it is worrying that they're just. I personally think that events will return. There's more chance of an event returning, say in Belfast or somewhere up the north, rather than down south, because they just don't have a clue what they're doing there. It's like something out of Father Ted. These lads in charge of the country, they haven't a clue what they're doing.
Man, I'll be totally honest with you. I gave up watching the news a long time ago because it's just like, do you ever see Benny Hill where they're chasing each other and that music? That's just what it reminds me of every time I switch it on, because it's just fucking pantomime at this stage, like, and it's not even that they're making it up as they go along. They're just fucking absolutely winging it, like, and it's just at this stage, like you said, it's ridiculous. So I would love some positivity in the form of something just to happen, just to sort of give us something. But in the UK, I don't see anything happening for this year. Even, like, I don't want to sound it like, again, being sort of like killjoy, but I'm just trying to be real with myself and how, you know, I think this podcast is great what you've done, because it's given people to actually speak their minds on how everybody's feeling as an individual. Because let's face it, you know, 12 months ago, our whole world came crashing down. It was like, 1 minute you're like top of the world, you're like at the peak of your career, you're gigging, you're like, you know, you're driven, and next minute it's just all gone. It's like, I don't think people can sort of like realize how that drop in something affects you. Like, when basically the career that we're in, your whole life is consumed by it. Like, you know, the workload that goes into sustaining a career in dance music is just relentless, and you know that yourself. Like,
yeah, because, you know, like, you be the same as me, man. We have a very sort of similar work ethic, and we like to do things ourselves, and we put our heart and souls into our music, everything we do, and it's almost like an addiction as well, the performing and traveling all over the world and playing the music. And like, people don't understand the high that you can get from playing in front of a crowd. And like, my last gig was at like ASOT in Holland last February 15th. Yeah. And like playing with John at Key 4050 and in front of what, 10,000-15,000 people. And I haven't played a gig since, man. My gigs have been in my kitchen on my own in front of an iPhone, just trying to make the most of it, and there's not much I can do. So that thing that brings me so much satisfaction and makes me feel what I'm doing is
release from everyday life. You
absolutely, know what I mean? Man. Like you're in this your flow state sometimes when you're performing on stage. Like, nothing else matters. All you're doing is just playing that music, and you're absolutely loving it. So it's tough that it's been taken away from us. And as you said, it's difficult to be positive when it doesn't feel like it's going to end anytime soon. So you're the same as me, man. We've just tried to sort of stay as relevant as we can and sort of do what we can.
Doing the wee streams and all the rest, and looking even at social distancing events and all, I'm looking at them, and you know, I'm not faulting anybody for doing them, because I know that people's just trying to put on a brave face and trying to make the best of a bad situation. But man, it's just the buzz isn't there for me with that. Like, you know, I like the full crowd, like the full, it's all or nothing for me, you know, that way. Like, I started out in this game to be a DJ. That's what I started out as, a DJ. I only got into production as a means of getting me gigs, do you know what I mean? I wasn't a producer to start with, so DJing is what it's about for me, and what it always has been. So to have that taken away after, like, I started DJing when I was 13 years old, man, you know what I mean? Like, I've been DJing a long time, and having that, getting that stage of where you're playing out, and after all that work over the X amount of years, and then just having it taken away has really affected me mentally, you know what I mean? I've always been such a positive person, and sort of like, you know, like you said, a bit like yourself, very driven. But I think in order to sustain that drive, you need to be reaching small goals all the time. You need to be ticking boxes, do you know what I mean? Like, you're aiming towards this, 6 months, I want to be doing this, you get to it, and then you're moving on to the next thing. When you're not ticking them boxes, man, what are you doing it for?
Yeah, that's exactly the same for me. So say like 2019, I was booked to do the second Kearney set that I've done, and I was doing it at Dream State. And the fact that I find that out like 6 months in advance gives me that spark and that drive to say, right, I have something to aim for here, and this is what I'm gonna aim, this is where I'm gonna put all my focus and attention into. And it's like you have an end goal and you see the target, and that's what you're working towards. But it's just at the moment, like, I have music that I've been working on for the past year or so, and like it's really, really good, but I don't want to just play it on a stream and it's gone, because it's not going to have the same connection. Like, some of the stuff is really, really good that I've made, but I'd rather just wait and keep it. So that's what I'm saying about the ASOC gig. Obviously, again, I don't know if I'm going to be playing, but I'd like to think that I will be playing at it. So if I had something like that, man, that would do so much for me mentally, and just it would give me a spark within me to work even harder and to make more tunes, to create a set for that occasion that's just all brand new music. Just roll in with so many brand new tunes, and just hopefully people will love it. And probably similar for yourself.
See, man, like I was listening to the other podcasts you done with Factor B and Shugs, and you know, I think you touched on this as well, like, you know, having all this music and not been able to play it out. And I think, like, part and parcel of being a DJ and making the tunes the best that they can be is road testing them and sort of, you know, like seeing the reaction. Some of my best tunes I've played out and I've tweaked them, like, you know, I've changed them a lot based on crowd reactions and based on what I've seen on the dance floor, because I'm the sort of DJ where I read the dance floor and I'm looking at people, what they're doing. And, you know, obviously different territories that you play around the world are going to have different reactions to music than others, but you sort of get the general vibe of your sound, what works best where and what you're trying to do with that tune. And not being able to do that has been tough to sit and write music. You know, obviously you get a starting point and you're just away doing whatever, but it's the fine tuning and the sort of the parts that make a tune in my opinion, that you're not getting that sort of opportunity to showcase it and road test it. And I think at the very start of the lockdown, whenever things turned in March, April time, man, I was on fire in the studio because I was having like regular sleep patterns. You know, I was getting up, I could work at my leisure, you weren't rushing anything, you weren't jet lagged. I was writing the tune every week, like, I swear to God, I have them stockpiled now, I have a load of them sitting there, and I was just writing some of the best music I've ever written, and I'm just keeping it all for something that I'm working on at the minute. So I'm just like stockpiling all that. And then obviously, as you know, my dad took a turn in May. He fell sick and everything just came fucking crashing down for me, man. It was just like, you know, he went to hospital and we couldn't see him because obviously COVID was kicking off and he was like really ill, and we were just like worried because something would happen and we'd probably never get to see him again, do you know what I mean, because of the whole situation. And he got out of hospital then he stayed there for like near a week and got out, and just the whole lot, just from that it just progressed over the whole summer where I just couldn't really focus on music because it was all time phoning my mum, you know, asking how he was doing, stressed out, worried, do you know what I mean. And fair play to the guys from Northern Ireland Trance Family and stuff, they started the wee set the scene thing, and I was going out with them guys, I was keeping my mind occupied, do you know what I mean, doing the streams and whatever with them guys. And, you know, props to them lads, they're a great bunch of lads, like, do you know what I mean, they really helped me out, like, as far as, because I don't even own a set of decks, man. I sold my CDJs in 2010 because I just didn't need them, do you know what I mean, and I didn't have a set, so they were like sort of helping me get the streams together and all, and, you know, just keep my mind occupied really. And then, you know, things just went from bad to worse from my dad, like, and it was just, the end of the year was just absolutely horrific, like, you know, I just can't even.
How long was your dad actually in hospital from when he turned sick till when he passed?
He took a minor sort of like heart attack in May, and he was in hospital for about a week. So they done various tests and whatever, and then he got out, and he was told that his heart was only run on a certain percentage, and he wasn't, in my opinion, because of COVID, he didn't get the aftercare that he should have got, because, you know, I think I've been seeing a lot of this in the news and people getting various treatments, whatever, they're basically being neglected because of the situation. And he, you know, he seen a few people, but he just didn't look well, like, do you know what I mean? And I knew something wasn't right, like, and my dad is the sort of guy, he's like myself, loves building work, loves being in amongst it, do you know what I mean? Like, constantly, if I'm doing something to the house, he's out every day, you know, like, telling me what to do, and, like, you know, whatever, and we're arguing, just stupid father-son shit, do you know what I mean? Like, and but what I wouldn't give to have those moments just now, just one of them, you know, that way, but it's just like typical father-son shit. I know it all, he knows it all, you know what I mean? So it was just
too similar, man, that's what it is.
Yeah. So, you know, he wasn't coming out. He wasn't interested. I built a walk-in wardrobe at the house, spent ages on, turned the whole room into walk-in wardrobe. He would have been out like loving that, you know, the whole buzz of it. He wasn't interested, so I knew something was wrong. Like, and I just like I said, the whole summer was hard on me mentally because I was trying to make music, keep the streams going, but at the same time worrying, was I going to get that phone call? Something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then on the 27th of September, Sunday morning, never forget it, for some reason, man, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep all morning. I was lying in bed, just wide awake. My mum phoned me. It's just a complete panic. My dad took another heart attack, so I just jumped into the car, sped into the house. Got to the house. She was trying to resuscitate him, and he was gone, man. It's just like absolutely brutal. See, that morning, it just plays through my head, like, you know what I mean? Constantly, I've had nightmares for 2 months, like.
Yeah, it's horrible,
man. I'm getting a bit.
No, Jesus, man, it's like, I'll give you a minute there to sort of process what you've said, because it's tough talking about this stuff. But like, as I said, me and you were fairly similar. I've been through exactly the same thing. Like, my dad's anniversary was last week, and it was like 5 months, or sorry, 5 months, 5 years since he passed in January 2016.
Yeah,
and it was exactly the same for me. Like, he just wasn't feeling right for a few months in advance, and he was in and out of hospital, and he just wasn't himself. And I always remember that, like, I have always got on really well with my dad, but probably with the similar as yourself, I wouldn't be ringing him up for chats or real close to him. Like, it's Irish father-son relationship, but we always got on well. Like, we had a really good relationship, and he started ringing me sort of every week to sort of, he was taking sort of more of an interest in what I was doing and where I was playing and stuff, because I always remember when I was growing up, he was always asking me, when am I going to get a real job? And I was just, because I only went professional at DJing in 2009. I was an apprentice electrician before that. I was the worst electrician you can ever imagine. So I sort of did that to sort of keep him happy, but to sort of have something else to fall back on. But I've known from the start that this was all I was ever going to do. So he sort of just had to accept that in the end. But he was ringing me to see how I was and where I was going. And when I think back to that, it probably makes me realise he sort of had a feeling that something was sort of up, you know.
Yeah,
so
he had a bit of an inkling.
Yeah, so then he was sort of getting various symptoms and stuff, and then he was diagnosed with like pancreatic cancer in December 2015, and like that's the worst type you can get. There's no comeback from that. Yeah. So he sort of lost belief in himself, where he sort of just gave up a little bit, and then he sort of,
it's the same,
and then he sort of came back to life a little bit then. And Christmas 2015 would have been the last time that he was in our house. And my dad, like myself, is a Man United fan, so that's something he's passed on to me. And I always remember the last game that we watched together in the house was possibly the worst performance that I've ever seen from them. There's been a few of them. Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely terrible. But Louis van Gaal was in charge of the team. And I said to him, he has to get sacked. And my dad goes to me, I'll be gone before he's gone. So he went back into hospital then, and like, he was in there for the next 3 weeks, and he wasn't really getting any better, and he was sort of deteriorating bit by bit, but he was still sort of he was all right. He was chatting away and stuff, but you could see that it was on the cards and stuff. But but so I had to, in the mid-January, I had to travel over to San Francisco to play at Dream State, and like, I didn't know what to do. Did I go? Did I cancel the show? Did I stay with my family in the hospital? Because I was in the hospital all the time then. So I spoke to my mum and I spoke to my dad, and he said, go to it. So the last time that I actually ever spoke to him was the night before I had to fly away.
Yeah.
And I just basically just said goodbye. It was tough, you know. So.
And it happened that weekend?
No, it didn't actually. No, I went, did the gig, and I just sort of tried to put everything to one side. And I actually really enjoyed the gig, and I was spending time with like John O'Callaghan and Faddy, and we were going for stuff to eat, and it was good just to sort of take my mind off it and to get out of that. But I knew that I was going to be flying back into a very difficult situation, so I got back into Ireland on the Monday afternoon, and I went straight to the hospital, and I was in the hospital like for 4 days. I slept in the hospital and all, like all my family were there, all his friends and stuff were coming in and out of the hospital. But it was a really difficult time, but I also found it really, really nice as well, because I don't see a lot of my family too often, and I don't really get time to spend where we're all together in the same situation. And I know it was a really difficult situation that we were in, but it was just really nice to be surrounded by my family and just to have them around me, because it's something that wasn't it's not something that was I was used at that stage. But I give you something as terrible as it was, and as sad as it was. One of the funniest things I've ever seen in my whole life happened. I think it was the day before he passed, but one of my dad's friends that he grew up with, he suffers from Alzheimer's, and he went in to see him, and he was in there talking to him for a few minutes. We were all sitting outside, obviously real upset and stuff, and my dad's friend with the Alzheimer's walks out of the room, and he looks over to us and he goes, "Jesus Christ, he's in great form." And my dad was literally, he was lying there saying nothing, but honest to God, just to break that that tension and
that moment, yeah.
It was fantastic, it really was. But
no, man, it's fun. It's funny you say that, because like through the whole grieving period now, like I said, I never really have time to spend any time with my family or even see my dad's friends. I probably didn't know many of them, only through working through building construction. I would have met them briefly, but you know yourself, when you're on building sites, there's no real dialogue. It's just slagging much. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, it was only after. Sorry
to interrupt you. Just on that point, like, men don't talk, man. They don't talk.
No.
They just pretend that they're these hard men. Oh, I'm stronger than you. Whatever. Like, they just don't talk about their feelings around like this, because they think that's a weakness. But it's not like this. This type of thing is stuff that people should be talking about. Men especially, because men in our age group, they're the ones that are most likely to take their own lives. So
100%,
this is stuff that needs to be spoken about.
I would fall into that bracket of not like speaking to about anything like that. I keep everything closed in. I'm sort of that sort of person, because I've been brought up working on sites and, you know, among men sort of people, like, and it's just not that sort of environment where you let your personal things go to the forefront. So for me, it's like, I don't think I've spoke to anybody about my father passed away, really, only yourself on WhatsApp messages, and that's the God's honest truth. As weird as that may sound to you, I haven't really sort of like, I think we engaged in some WhatsApp messages a while back there, and you know, you sort of put my mind at rest, because you sort of said, you know what, man, you're never going to get over this, like, it's never going to go away, you're just going to have to learn to sort of deal with it. And that was sort of like a reality thing for me, saying, right, what am I sitting waiting on here? I have to, like, sort of, you know, accept this and find a way of dealing with it, rather than sort of waiting on something magical happening, if you know what I mean, where it's just going to disappear, because it wasn't, like, you know what I mean? And just that sentence that you wrote was really reassuring for me, you know what I mean? And I sort of turned the corner the next day, because I started getting out amongst my dad's friends, were phoning me and stuff, and they were telling me stories about him, about like how amazing of a man he was, and stuff that I didn't even know about, like, and I was started to turn my grief into positive memories, do you know what I mean? And that sort of has helped me a lot. And also now I'm back literally only the last 4 or 5, 6 weeks writing music again, and I'm sort of using my emotions the only way I know how. I'm trying to put it into music, do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that coupled with a few other wee bits and pieces, started walking, like going to the mountains and stuff, clear my head, trying to get a bit of balance back in my life, because one thing I've realised over the last 12 months is that, you know, I used to be a very outgoing person, used to be like, love socialising, love going out with my mates, used to always like love messing around, you know, loved a bit of crack. And I'm not that person anymore, because the industry has done that to me. It's separated me from that life, if you know what I mean.
It's done the same to me, man. I've spoken about this. Like, I sort of just, all I became was the DJ, and I sort of just never went saw my mates and never had any nights out. And then I was wondering why I felt like there was something missing in my life, you know? Just,
that void of like, you know, socialising and just having people taking the piss out of you and whatever when you're on a night out with your mates that only you can do with your real mates is something that you need in your life, man. I don't care what anybody says, and that's something that I've really neglected. And, you know, I don't think people realise, like I said, how full on time consuming and how much you are in the bubble when you're working in music, when you do everything yourself. Like, I'm making my own music, run my own label, man, I even do the own artwork from releases, everything. I do everything. The only thing I don't do is distribution. Black Hole look after contracts and distribution, but everything else I do. It is too much, and I'm going to outsource most of it next year when I start back again, but I need to get that balance back in my life. I need to have that, be back to the people person that I once was, and sort of, you know, having that spring in my step. And, you know, I've just turned into somebody that I completely hate. Not that I completely hate in terms of my family, but just like not the person that I was, if you know what I mean, that I don't like being. I
think it comes back to being addicted to our work. Honestly, think we are. A lot of us are, and I think you can sort of see that from certain people who've been working over the past year. They're relentless with their work ethic and stuff. It's like they just can't take a step back and sort of live their life. Maybe they are when they're not posting stuff online, but it's definitely an addiction. It was an addiction for me, 100%. Whereas like I wasn't. I should have taken. Well, I don't want to use the word should. I didn't. I can't go back and change it, but it's something that I can focus on in the future. I can make sure I make time to go and see me mates, and for us to go out for a pint, or go out and watch a football match, or go to games. Just because the happiness in your work will come from your happiness. Like your life is a pie chart. There's all different parts, and if one of them isn't filled in, it's not going to work correctly. So I know from now when I'm moving forward, I'm definitely going to make more of an effort to focus on who the normal me is rather than the DJ, etc. Even like at the start of last year, I went back playing five-a-side football because I just wanted to do something where a little bit of normality, and I wanted to play football with lads who couldn't give a fuck about what tunes I make or where I'm going in the world. I'm on that pitch. I'm just some fella who's come back playing football after being away for 10 years. I'm no special person. I'm just someone else. So
that's what you want, man.
Yeah, but then the pandemic kicks in and the football stops. So that was another thing. But I want to come back to your dad, if that's okay, because I'll just tell you about mine. Because the only thing better than an Irish wedding is an Irish funeral. And as devastating as it was for me to have to carry the coffin into the church and being absolutely broken and then going to the graveyard and all that stuff, I had an absolutely brilliant day that day. Whereas it was a proper celebration of my dad's life, and like talking to people and the stories they were telling me about. My dad was a mad bastard, man, absolutely mad bastard. And as well, he wouldn't want me sitting around feeling sorry for him or grieving for him or anything. But grieving, it's inevitable when you lose a parent, man. It's one of the most traumatic things that any human can ever go through. And like there's various stages of depression, or various stages of grieving. Depression is one of them, but there's like denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, which is what you sort of tipped on there, which is like you'd give anything just to have one more day doing that sort of things with him and working and stuff. And then there's the depression stage, and then there's finally acceptance. And how I was over the first 6 months, I don't know, this might be similar for you. It was as if my brain blocked out any negative memories or anything negative to do with my dad, and all I could remember was the good times and everything he did for me. I'm just wondering, was there anything like that was similar for you? How it has been in your mindset? Or have you drifted between those various stages? Obviously, you said you had the bargaining.
I would say, man, like, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for me, because I've been fortunate enough that I have never lost anybody, except for my grandmother, who was pretty close to. In my immediate family, sort of like, I've never, this was a complete shock to me, you know what I mean? I've never felt this sort of grief before. I've never had to deal with anything like this before in my family circle, really. And for me, it was unknown territory completely. And not that I'm saying that anybody that you're going to be prepared for it, because you can't prepare yourself for it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like the individual will deal with it how they see fit, and how everybody processes stuff is going to be completely different. But like going back to what you said, I sort of went through multiple parts of that and a roller coaster of emotions. At the funeral, obviously with being COVID-19, it was very limited numbers.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Was there a limit to how many people? Because I'm sorry to interrupt you again. It's just this stuff is just coming to me as we're talking about it. It's just like you want to see the amount of people that was at my dad's funeral, man. I'd never seen that like that in my life, and it made me really, really proud of the person he was and how much people liked him. You know, it's amazing for me, and it's sort of I think you should that's how you should live your life. Live your life as if your funeral was tomorrow, so that if you die tomorrow, how are people going to remember you? Don't bother with like petty arguments or anything like that. Let all that shit go and just like you never know when it's going to end. You know, it's I think it's important.
Everything that you're saying there is completely true. Like I mean, obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. Whenever this kicked off, I think the funeral was limited to 30 people inside the actual church, and I think it was like 30 people beside the grave when he was buried, but anybody else was welcome to stand outside and come to a wake. Man, there was hundreds of people, and like it showed how much my dad was liked and how much people thought of him. Even with that turnout, like there was a lot of people obviously didn't go because they were in that age group of high risk from COVID. Like my dad was 67, so you know he would have been in that age group where people, his friends and circle would have been, you know, a lot of people would have been afraid to come out. So man, it was ridiculous. And like the stories that my dad's a very religious person, very, very religious, never drank, never like partied or anything. Only started doing that when he was like 50, not partying like, but only started going out to bars and stuff because my wee brother, he would be like 10 years younger than me. So when he was like 18, 19, my dad would have went up to the bar with him for a pint or whatever, and he only started to really socialise as such then. He was like, he's a born again Christian. He would read the Bible a lot, like 2 or 3 times a day. He was very, very religious. Man, he used to drive me fucking mental. He like see driving the work van. He used to tell me, you just don't even know, like I'm going to paradise when I die, I'm going to paradise. He had this in his head. So I sort of take peace in that if there's a heaven, he's in it. You know that way? A very, very religious person. He could have quoted you any verse, any scripture from the Bible, anything at all. He could have just rhymed it off, like that's how much he knew it. And I only found out how good-hearted he was. Like whenever he passed away, his friends were telling me, oh, he used to do this job for a woman, and maybe the woman hadn't that much money, he should pay him, and he'd go up and put the money behind her clock and walk out and not even take the money for the job. Like they said that they've seen him doing that multiple times. Like he's a very like selfless person, you know what I mean? Like very and it was only like you said that I found all this stuff out after when I got talking to his mates, and I've sort of has turned things into really good memories and thinking about celebrating his life rather than sort of like grieving. I know it's difficult. I'm still waiting for him to walk through that door, take the piss out of me about my music. Massive trance fan as well. You wouldn't believe it.
That's what I wanted to come on to. Yeah, you can let people know about that he had an absolute huge love for the music. Well, I think in a way that could have been his way of communicating with you, and sort of. No, man. He's always been a music person, right? I can remember when I was younger, he used to. He bought a set of drumsticks. I think he always wanted to be in a band, but he just never could find the people or had the drive to get in because he was a joiner by trade, so he was doing that and that was his thing. He went and bought himself a set of drumsticks, and he used to drum on the arm of the armchair, the Fleetwood Mac and Queen and all this stuff, and that was my first sort of introduction to music. So I used to get up on a Sunday morning. Used to be a thing on 2FM called the Beatbox. Don't know if you remember it. I think I do. Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
And I used to watch the bands on that and drum with the drumsticks on the end of the seat, and he used to, you know, try and teach me how to drum to get the rhythm, and I think that's where my sort of obsession for the beat came from. And then obviously introduction to like Euro dance and all that sort of stuff started to become popular on the chart shows, and it was interesting and whatever. But my dad always wanted to be a drummer, and I just know that because when my wee brother got a bit older, he bought my brother a drum kit for his birthday, and he has no fucking interest in drums, and I knew the drums were for him. So he put them out at the yard, and he said, if you don't want them, I'm going to leave them sitting out there. And I went in one day, and I pulled up in the van, and he had fucking AC/DC going, and I walked in, and he was fucking beating the drums, the cymbals and all, and I called him lovely. He didn't know I was pulled up in the van, like. He had a bit of a moment, like, and he was all, I don't know, I'm going to give them to him, but I don't think he wants them, do that way. But I just know I think to be in this industry and make music and love music, you have to really feel it. Like, you have to, it has to be inside you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
it's just, I talk to people about music, and I'm sure you do, that they're going to me, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know, the way you feel it and the way you like music touches you as such, like, you know, the melodies and whatever. But my dad felt it that way too, because, like, funny enough, one of his favourite track was the one you and John did, Key 4050, I Love You one. He used to put it on. My brother actually sent it to me the other night on WhatsApp. He goes, remember that tune? He used to play that every Saturday night. He'd go sit at the dinner table, put it on, full boot, drink 2 bottles of red wine, head up to the pub, and then mingle with all the old boys, and just as if nothing was going on. But he had his wee dance music moment in the house before he went up, and he thought my music was shite, by the way. He liked some of it, but he just that's what I'm saying. I'd be sitting in the studio and I'd be working away with the headphones on maybe, and he'd come in and go, that's shite. You know, like that, just like joking about, like. But he was a big fan of that Key 4050 track, and also Armin's track, Burn With Desire. And we actually found
I'm doing a remix of that, actually.
Yeah.
Been doing a remix of that for the last year. Just there's no point in me finishing it because I can't play it.
I think I heard of one of your sets. Actually, you did road test it, didn't you?
Yeah, that was just a bootleg mix, but I'm doing a proper mix, so it's literally just sitting on this computer, and I'm just waiting for the right moment. Yeah.
But we got an acoustic version of that, and we're going to play it going out of the church. They wouldn't fucking let us. We're raging. Like, just the Catholic Church, you know yourself, like, everything's frowned upon. So it was a bit of a annoying moment for us, because we know that's what he wanted. Like, he hated all that hymns and all that stuff. It wasn't him. Even though he's religious, he was a born again Christian, so he wasn't into any of that. He was into, the way he believed things was that you have your own personal relationship with your God and Bible, and you do it at home, and you don't need to go to church or anything like that. So that was his way of the way he looked at religion and he approached it. And like I said, man, like, I'm still waiting for him to come through that door and slag me. I can't even bring myself to delete his phone number off my phone. Do you know that way? I'm still waiting on him ringing me, and just like wee stupid things I got. I'll
tell you a story about something like that. I don't know whether it was about 4 or 5 months after he passed, but my phone started ringing, and I looked at it, and it was my dad's number ringing me. Was there what? It was me ma ringing me off his phone because her credit was gone, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what was going on?
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, it was funny, yeah. But like, I wanna ask you. Obviously, that was about 4 or 5 months since he passed. Do you find that how you're feeling and that has affected the how you're working in the studio? Do you feel inspired, or do you feel like there's certain melodies being sort of coming from you that have been inspired by those events? And if you think it, I'll tell you my story after, if you can sort of explain first. I just don't want to speak over you first.
It's a strange one, man, because, like, you know, like I said, I haven't experienced anything like this before. Plus, top that off with being in the middle of a pandemic, which people's morale is going to be low anyway. Like, I've spoke to multiple DJs, I've been keeping in contact. Like, I have a very small circle of friends in the scene that I speak to, yourself. You know, I'm not going to start naming them all, but it's like maybe 4 or 5 guys that I would speak to on a regular basis. I don't mean like every day, but, you know, weekly, and like, you know, send messages, whatever. And most of them that I've spoke to have went through highs and lows over the pandemic. You know, they've been making music and then they've just couldn't be bothered and whatever. So it's hard for me to answer that question truthfully, and whether my dad passing away has really affected me in the studio, because I don't know whether it's that. I don't know whether it's the pandemic. I don't know whether it's the collection of the two. But I know one thing, at the start I was fucking, all guns were blazing. I was writing a tune a week, no joke. Like, not a full tune, but a good 70-80% of the ideas are there, put into a folder, onto the next one, because I know it just needs a bit of time to finish it off. All the ideas are there. And I was writing some of the best music I've ever written, really versatile, different. And then, you know, like I said, my dad got sick. So it did obviously affect my workflow in the studio, but I don't know, man, like things are starting to come round a wee bit now over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Like I said, I'm trying to channel my emotions into music, and it is tough. And, you know, trying to keep a routine down and a regular balance in my life is something that I'm really focusing on now. And I think if I keep that in check, like you said, the music will come, if you know what I mean. So started the hill walking, the mountain walking with my brother every now and again. Started, you know, looking at it and saying, you know what, I'm getting to spend some really quality time with my family here. This isn't going to last forever. Things is going to kick off again.
Absolutely.
The turn's going to be relentless again.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to last forever. It is hard to swallow now, but it's not going to last forever. And I'm not going to have that opportunity. Like, I missed most of my daughter's life growing up because I was either in the studio or touring other end of the world, speaking to them on Skype. I'm just using every moment now to be like precious family time as much as I can. I'm working in the studio. If I'm not getting it together, just get up, man, switch it off and go out and do whatever. Like, I'm just, you know, trying to get the balance back. I don't know how your experience has been, but
well, I'll explain my side. So my dad passed away January 22nd, 2016, and there was a track that I was working on. It turned out to be By My Side. So I reached out to Christina Novelli, because she was probably, you've worked with her as well, obviously you know how good she is, but
yeah,
I reached out and asked if she could possibly do a vocal. So I sent over the demo with the music, and the vocal that she obviously did was centered around what had just happened to me and what I'd gone through, and it was written by Roxanne Emery in collaboration with Christina Novelli, and I think she's gone through a similar sort of thing. So the words sort of came from her as much as what had happened to me in the previous month, and the lyrics are just exactly how I was feeling over the past month. And I debuted at ASOT, and obviously it's a hugely personal track to me, and I did a little outro mix of it there last year, and I was only sort of listening back to it yesterday in anticipation of this podcast, because I knew what we were talking about, and I started crying here in my studio, because it's a song that means a lot to me. It reminds me of a certain time in my life, and just that I won't forget him and stuff like that. So then moving forward 12 months, and as I was going through the certain stages of grief and sort of trying to deal with everything, I was waiting to receive the vocal from Plum, which came all over again. And I remember I was working on the track, and it was roughly his 1 year anniversary, and I remember getting the vocals and putting them into the audio, or the musical part, into the project, on my PC. And the first time I heard the chorus, I absolutely burst into tears, because it just the words of the song, they could not have summed up how I was feeling and how I was trying to deal with what was going on in my head. And it was just, it was tough, but it felt, it was like magical at the same time, because it just felt like these two, this vocal and this track were meant to go together. Because I'll give you a little story behind that track. I'd got 2 previous vocals for that track, and I didn't use them because I didn't think they did the track justice. Yeah. And it was probably the feeling that when I put Plum's vocal into the track, how I was feeling about my dad and everything, it just felt like this is why I didn't use those vocals. So I know obviously the pandemic is affecting your workflow and your desire to finish tracks, but I've no doubt that over the next few months or a year or so, how you're feeling is going to come across in your music, and I guarantee you'll probably make some of the best tunes you've ever made in your life. Well,
I have a track written, man, a vocal track for my dad that I had basically just before Christmas there. I sort of got into the studio, put down the melody, So if the melody done, everything's there. Like I said, probably in the same position you're in now. The track's there. The melody is unbelievable. It's the best melody I've ever written, 100%. But the vocal needs to be right. So at the minute I'm in the process of finding a vocal for it. If it takes a year, so be it. I won't be putting the track out until it's bang on. But this track was written specifically for my dad because I know the type of melodies that he likes, and I know it's something that we both enjoy melody wise. So it was written with that in mind. And yeah, man, it's like, I think people underestimate the power of music and what it can do for you in a mental state. And that, going back to like the lockdowns and all the carry on that's going on in the UK, I don't think how much people are realising, or how much the government are realising, that they're affecting people's mental health by taking away that the only thing that people have to escape from their daily life, and especially been locked down all week. People that have kids, man, like I have a child there myself, it's just climbing the walls, like, you know what I mean? We're actually doing homeschooling at the minute. It's an absolute nightmare because you're having to like send to school all the work that's just done all week, and I mean like it's a full week of like homeschooling, and the child just wants to get up and play, and she's not in the zone, she's not focused. And if you don't send the work at the end of every week, they get marked absent. So you're now becoming a teacher, a parent, all this all under one roof. You're not allowed to go out anywhere, and you're just all like living on top of each other. And if you're not a strong-minded person, I can imagine how it's affecting some people. And you know, I feel really sorry for single parents and stuff, and people that don't have, you know, their partners like sort of support over times like this. It's going to be difficult times for everybody, but man, you just have to, like, you know, we just have to try and stay positive and see what's going to happen. It's crazy times, and you know, for me it's just like one day at a time and 1 week at a time, just see how it plays out. Like, it's
exactly the same for me, and one of the main reasons why I've started doing this podcast is because I haven't personally been affected by suicide. I'm grateful for the fact that I don't know really anyone or families who have sort of had to deal with that, and I don't want to hear that one of my mates or someone that I know, or hearing that like someone that follows me or supports me has to feels that down or that low, that they make the decision to do that. So I'm just like, I'm getting so many messages from people telling me their personal stories, and I appreciate that so much. And for anyone listening in, as I said, I'll leave the DMs open on my Instagram, and if there's anything I can do, if I can record a video, if I can say happy birthday to one of your friends, if is any of your mates struggling, anyone that you know is struggling, if I can help them in any way, please reach out to me and I will do. But I want to bring an awareness of, like, people probably look at us and see us in a privileged position, and we are. And
I think we're invincible, man. I think we're like untouchable, but everybody's has a weakness. We're just normal people like everybody else. Things affect us in the same way that they affect everybody else. I think, like you said, people seem to think that these DJs are up there, they're wrapped in plastic and nobody can touch them, and it's sort of like, you know, we're just normal guys like anybody else, and day-to-day things affect us. Like, just saying about suicide there, like Northern Ireland has one of the highest rates of suicide in the UK. It's just ridiculous. Like, me personally, I've lost 5 or 6 mates to suicide. That's alone, and that's just me thinking about anybody else. Like, I know over the years I've lost so many friends like to suicide. It's just been ridiculous. And you know, it's amazing, man, what you're doing, because it's giving people the opportunity to, you know, listen to like me and you talk, or whoever else you had on, and just said, you know what, these guys are like giving us something to like hold on to here. They're giving us like some sort of like just some sort of starting point to sort of like go forward and look forward to, and sort of like everybody's in the same boat here, if you know what I mean, that sort of attitude. And you know, like I said, growing up in Northern Ireland in the 90s, going out to events and stuff and all that affected me and a lot of my friends growing up, because it was tough because of the whole troubles and all the rest. Like, man, we used to have to change our names to go to advance. Do you know what I mean? Because if you had found out who you were, where you were from, you'd have been shot. Like, and that has a mental impact on you growing up as well. Like, you know, trying to even shake that.
Yeah.
And then moving into different things over life, even though there's like peace here now, it still was a traumatic time in life. So you never really got to live like a, you know, I was watching actually there last week the video that you and John done for Key 4050 where you were going around talking about the Temple Theatre and all. I was just watching it because it came up on you know the way on YouTube it comes up like suggestions, and I'd seen it before but I'd forgot what it was like, and I just the way you were talking so much freedom and all, but when we were growing up in the early 90s it was fucking tough, man. Like being into dance music and loving dance music was taboo. Like it was a touchy subject back then here, and it was very risky business. My mum and dad used to be shitting themselves like, you know, was I going to come home? Because I just done what I wanted and went wherever, and I'm not sectarian or religious minded. I just have friends from everywhere, and there was people come back to my shed out the back of my dad's house. We had a party there Sunday night, just locked the fucking door, man, do you know what I mean, and just partied away, and nobody cared, like. And but over the years, like I said, I got a wee bit older. I sort of realised that period really affected me mentally, do you know what I mean? Because you'd be going to other countries, and it's only when you start to travel, realise how good people have it. People don't realise, man, how fucking good they have it, like, do you know what I mean? There's people sitting whinging online and whatever, and they don't realise how good they have it. And it was only since I started to travel that I started, you know, thinking about things, and like my mind started to go. But yeah, mental health is a big topic, man, and especially now more so than ever.
Yeah, but I want that's the one really positive thing I want to mention about Northern Ireland. I consider the gigs that I do in Belfast, they're as good as Buenos Aires, up there, 100%. Sure. And what you're saying there with how sort of dangerous and how it used to be, and compare it to now, it's unbelievable. Like it's something that the people in the north should be very, very proud about, how things have changed in say 20, 25 years. Because I remember when like Planet Love was in its infancy, and like some of my mates were talking about going up to it, and man, I'll be honest with you, there was no way I was going up the north. I was too afraid to go up the north, because it's the same sort of thing that you would say. You're talking to someone in the crowd and they ask you where you're from. I'm from down south, and that's the end of you. But it's completely different now. Like there's so many people who go to gigs up in Belfast and stuff, or up in Lush, and it's just really I'm a type of person where I'd rather get on with someone and have a laugh with them than have a fight with them. And it's great for me to see how much things have changed up the north, and how there's not really any of that stuff that goes on. It's a different generation now, and everyone just wants to go out and enjoy themselves, and it's one of the best crowds in the world, and I absolutely love playing there. And the thing that's given me hope and something to look forward to is my first gig up there after lockdown. So it should be very, very proud.
Yeah, man, listen, I'm buzzing. I'm all for it. Like dance music has I've made so many friends on both sides of the divide up here through dance music. Like some of my best friends, both sides of the community, people, guys I know living in America now and whatever, and I still, when a friend of mine in Denver, would go over to San Francisco and meet up with him and all. You know, we were all raved back in the day. But like, you know, growing up here at that time, I think like, and especially where I live, it was one of the most sectarian areas, and like there was a lot of murders here like growing up, and it was really, really tough growing up. But it didn't stop me, man. I had a love for music and a craving for music, and I just went whatever. It's only when I look back on it now I realise how actually dangerous it was, and why my mum and dad was so fucking worried about me going out at the weekends. But you know yourself, man, you're young and you don't think about them things. You're just like, man,
when I think back to some of the stuff that I got up to in my 20s,
I know, man, but listen, you're still the same person, right? That's another thing that I was thinking about. You think, oh, I want to be back to the way I was. You're still exactly the same person. You just have more responsibilities now, and you're thinking of repercussions more. Back then, you didn't have those responsibilities. You didn't think of the repercussions. You just fucking went, man. Like you were out on a Friday and you were wearing the same clothes to Monday. You didn't give a shit. Do you know what I mean?
I know, yeah, Jesus, man. When I think about what I did to my body, but in a way, I wouldn't be the person that I am now today and sort of I know myself, I have matured a lot in the past few years, and if I didn't get all that out of my system in my 20s, I don't know what maybe could have happened to me.
I'm sure, man, I can speak for you now that you feel proud to be part of something very special. The movement that happened in Ireland and the dance music at that period, there's nothing really happening like that now. It was all fresh. It was all like, it was all new to everybody. Like, we were completely spoiled for DJs. Like, I'm looking back at old flyers. I see people posting flyers and I was going, Jesus Christ, look at that lineup. Like, do you know what I mean? And back then you didn't even look at it, because the next week there was another lineup just as strong. I think we were really spoiled for, like, you know, massive lineups, massive DJs, just a club and culture in general, and a movement that I feel really, really proud to be part of. And I'm really protective of the scene. Like, believe it or not, I get really offended when people say things that I get really offended by it. Like, I guess I just feel like, you know, I'm part of it now, and I want to be remembered as being part of it, and have added something to it whenever I hang the headphones up, whenever that's going to be. And I'd be really proud, I'm sure, as you will be yourself, to know that you've added something to it, and you've been, you know, instrumental in the journey of trance and music in general.
Exactly, but it's sort of, it comes back to the same thing. Me and you have a similar work ethic, and we give a shit, man. We care about the music, we care about the scene, we care about everything, and we do it from a right place within. We're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, for the money or for the prestige or whatever. We do it because we want to. I want to make people that know me proud of me, and I want to just show people what I can do, and to leave an impression.
Bring something different to the table.
I know I spoke about reincarnation and stuff, but I've one opportunity as who I am right now to leave a mark on the world, and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to do that in the best possible way that I can. So I'm just going to give it everything I can, and I'll continue to do so.
That's it, man. Like, you know, when all this is said and done, and when you hang the headphones up and I do it, like, I'd like to think we have made a bit of an impact in the scene, and, you know, people's lives going forward through our music. And like you said, the tracks that you've written have a special meaning to you. And I know for a fact, when I even speak about my dad, that he was listening to your tracks and he's taken something from that. So to know that your music has touched so many people over the world, and it's amazing, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, just take a step back and think about that for a minute. How many people get to achieve that sort of, like, you know, actually doing that and sort of making a piece of music that touches someone, or like can change someone's lives for a day, or like can change someone's mood from this to that. Like, it really is amazing. And I don't think, I'm just speaking for myself here, it's only really the last year that I've really sat down and thought about what I do. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's made me really appreciate it a lot more. And going forward, I'm going to be like, one thing that I've taken from all this is that over the last couple of years I would go out and DJ, right? But I would try to educate people, and sometimes people, like my brother would say to me, or my dad used to say to me, sometimes people just want to hear a tune they like they don't want to be educated. Yeah,
100%. I've noticed that from certain sets that I've done over the past year. Like, people just want to hear tunes that they like. Like, sometimes you need to put your own ego down, and all right, I want to change the world by playing a set full of brand new tunes, whatever. 90%.
Going out to educate people on what music's really about, but man, the normal 9 to 5 show blogs don't give two fucks. Like, they want to hear the tune.
Yeah, they just want to hear something that they know and they love, and I think that's important moving forward for myself. Obviously, I'll still try to make sets unique and sort of bring as much new. But people just want to enjoy themselves, and like, especially when we emerge from this situation and the clubs come back, I think I'm just going to concentrate on making sure people enjoy the set rather than just trying to bombard them with new tunes. Like,
send people home saying they had an unbelievable night. Like, I used to get really pissed off because people used to come up and ask me all the time to play my remix of Carte Blanche, and I used to play it every set, and then I started like getting really annoyed. But then I started to realise, you know what, the set that I played 2 weeks ago, they weren't there. You know what I mean? They weren't at that gig, so they wouldn't have heard that tune. It's just because I was there playing it that I'm getting that thing and I'm playing it all the time. So you sort of like have to sort of take a step back and put yourself on the dance floor again, and take your DJing as a perspective as, you know, people just want to have a good time. You want to send people home happy, and you know, just be a wee bit more flexible. I'm just speaking from myself here personally. Like, you know, I'm going to be just being a bit more relaxed about the whole thing going forward, and just trying to bring a bit more fun back into the DJing. Like I do, and really enjoy it. But sometimes you can get, you know, overload, you know, preparation and like making sure, obviously the big nights that you're playing, like the State of Trances and the transmissions and all, you have to prepare at a certain level. Do you know what I mean? You're not
because that music carries through for 12 months, and like that's the showcase. that's your year in advance, absolutely. But apart from that, I think people are just gonna want to enjoy themselves, man, hearing the tunes that they know and love, and I think it's up to us to provide it to them 100%.
Can you imagine, man, the first party when everything kicks off again? It's just going to be absolute pandemonium, like.
Absolute. It'll be madness, absolute madness, 100%, man.
Is your imagine it's going to be yours in Belfast, your show?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Like Northern Ireland, I don't watch the news, but there's certain things that I see throughout the day or whatever, and they seem to be making progress with the vaccine. Are people being vaccinated? Up down here, it's a joke, but
this is the worrying thing. That just touching back, that why I'm worried and why I'm like stressed, because they've rolled out a plan where they've put this online where they're going down a tier. They're going down a tier system of the people that's getting vaccinated. So first of all, you're going to have frontline workers, and then it's going down on a 10-year bracket. So you're going to have like 80 to 70-year-olds, 70 to 60, and that's going to be each month. So by the time it reaches general population in my age group, it's going to be September or October, and then they're going to have to allow for some sort of
incubation period or whatever.
You know,
that's probably the wrong word, but
period to see if the vaccination is even working among the general population. Like, they're not just going to open the floodgates and everybody goes running out and they're just going to wing it. They're back to square one again. So there's going to be 2 or 3 months there of, like, you know, keeping an eye on things, cases and whatever. That's going to bring you up to the end of the year, man. Do you know what I mean? And like, this is what has me really worried, like, because you're in the next year then, and not only that, but the gigs that we have missed out on are all being rescheduled. So the same lineups are being the same lineups are being rolled over. So it's going to be the year after that before you even get a crack at some of those gigs, those bigger shows. So it's going to be, I don't know where it's going to end, man. That's what really annoys me about the whole thing. It's just, you know, a bit stressful, but trying to stay positive as I can, like everybody else, and, you know, put the effort in the studio, keep the streams going, trying to make people happy. Facebook's making that fucking impossible at the minute. Like, you know, they're really being absolute killjoys for everybody. Everybody's dropping around to YouTube and Twitch, and just the reach is just, we're trying to help people and they're just doing their best to fucking bring it down for us. So it's not like, easy.
I don't get, like fair enough, the record companies and stuff own the rights to this music, but like, it's me playing as one of the song off by whoever on my Facebook page and then the stream gets taken out. Is it really going to make that much fucking difference to your business? Are you going to lose out on that much money that you can't just let a fucking stream play for people to enjoy it, for people who are stuck at home with nothing else to do? And all we're trying to do as DJs is to play some music for them to listen to it. Like, there's not that many people you're not going to miss out on that much revenue. Like I think they just need to cop themselves on a little bit and have a little bit of leeway.
Man, I think if they introduced some sort of system where people were to pay, like a DJ was to pay X amount of money a month, and then their fans could chip in to cover the cost, so they were allowed to like play tunes, you
like
know,
a license.
Yeah, like a license fee or something small, like, you know, something realistic. There would be a workaround around it, but they just don't want to do it, man. Like, Facebook has become an advertising based like thing now. It's just ads is where the money's at, and I've seen you talking to Brandon about that program, and actually watched it there. What's the
social dilemma?
Social dilemma, right? And I was just sitting back in my seat, man. I'm going to myself, this is fucking incredible. Like, this is crazy shit that's happening now. Like, Facebook they were took to court there recently. I think it was like last year or the year before, where they were accused of selling people's data to like third-party companies, right? But they were very smart. What they're actually doing is they're selling behavioural patterns. They're not selling data at all. So what they're doing is, say for me, for example, and I'm scrolling down my timeline, and I stop at an advert for a pair of jeans or a shirt or something, right? And I look at it for a minute and then I flick on. They'll earmark that I was interested in them jeans.
Yeah.
They'll sell that on to a company, and my timeline will be flooded with fucking the same genes. So
that's what I was talking about with regards to the AI and the intelligence that goes into this sort of data collection and stuff. And people haven't a clue. Like, as I said, we're humans, we're easy to read, and like this AI, it's reading, or it's picking up on what you're looking at. As you said, if you're hovering over a certain thing, it's able to see how long you're looking at it, so then it can sell that data. And I think there's even a thing where they're able to read like the retina in your eye. And they're able to tell. That's what I've heard before. I think there's an Edward Snowden video on YouTube explaining what smartphones actually do. So,
oh yeah, no, I've watched. I'm a big fan of him. I've been watching him for years, and he has saying like this: the technology that they have in place now, people don't even realize what they're capable of doing now. This like watching people through their smart TVs and all. That's 5 or 10 years ago stuff.
Yeah,
the stuff that they have now is just ridiculous, man. I just believe that half the stuff they have, they're not getting the rein to use it because it's breaching human rights and breaching various laws. But once they get it, man, they're eventually breaking down them walls one by one. Do you know what I mean? They're chipping away at them, and they're invading your privacy one by one, and it will come. But
this is the price you're paying for using like Facebook for free. Like, you're not getting anything for free when you use Facebook. You're handing over everything, every single aspect of your inner working system to them.
When you sign up to Facebook in the small print, you're signing everything over, man, and you're like, people don't even realise, like all these apps, TikTok and all these different things, this is allowing them to soften you down.
Yeah.
Like a breach of your privacy, to soften you down so that when they roll it out, you just say, it's just like whatever. Whereas if it had been before, like 10 years before TikTok, and they had rolled something like that out, you just said, hold on here a second, can't do that, that's like too much, do you know what I mean? But they're softening you. It's like social, like sort of massaging you down so that you can sort of like accept things a lot quicker. I don't know, man, the world's just turned into a scary place for me. I'm pretty up on my technology and stuff, and I keep up to date and stuff. Wouldn't call myself a conspiracy theory, but I do question a lot of stuff. Like my dad was a ridiculous man. He used to jump into the van and tell me people were lizards and everything, and I was like going, get out of this fucking van, do you know what I mean?
Do you want to go down this? Will we go down this road?
Go ahead, man. Well, look, I have a lot to add to this subject because I've been following it for the last 20 years because my dad is...
I'm up for speaking about this if you'd like to talk about it.
Well, my dad was a massive conspiracy theorist, right?
But I sorry to interrupt you there. I hate that word, man.
No,
I think all so-called conspiracy theory, that's just someone having the ability to question what the official narrative is and having an alternative view to what they're being told.
I only use that word, man, when it's somebody that goes too far.
Yeah, I look, fair enough. I know some of that reptilian stuff and some of the David Icke, whatever his name is, some of the stuff he comes out with, but I've been following some of that stuff over the past year, and some of the stuff that was said a year ago is exactly what's come true. So, like, there's a lot of people who think along these lines. So, like, are they all lunatics? Are they all wrong?
No,
it's
man,
usually, I think the truth is usually somewhere in the middle.
I think, like a lot of people, right, on social media, especially on Facebook, they have a mindset, and anybody that questions that mindset, it's like they've been conditioned, socially conditioned.
Yeah.
And anybody that questions that mindset is like, it's a big thing to them. They like get really annoyed about it. And if you were actually speaking to that person face to face, you would have a completely different approach to it. You would probably listen to them. You'd be a lot more open-minded because it's only typing and text that you're reading. It becomes a threat, and it becomes like it's the way you read it and the way your mind processes it. But if someone says it and you hear their actual tone of voice and you're in the same room as them, you would probably enter dialogue and have a bit more of a conversation and be a bit more open-minded.
Yeah,
about what they have to say.
Because when you're communicating with someone on social media or whatever, you're not actually communicating with them. No. You're reading words on your phone, and they're reading words on their phone. You're not speaking to each other. And like, I remember hearing something, a psychologist was talking about that's really affecting people's way of like, communicating with people, because you're not actually communicating with people. And like, this isn't really to do with it as well, but like, I don't think we really express our emotions properly now. Like, say if someone sends you something funny, the first thing you do is to send back maybe 3 or 4 laughing emojis, but then if you actually look at your face, you're not actually laughing. So, you know what I mean?
You said this to me before, actually. Yeah, it's true. But man, there's a lot to be said for tone of voice. and voice interaction, because there's so many times, especially in this industry, that I've read an email and I've gone, what the fuck is that like? And you know, it's in my head, but if the person was actually saying that to me face to face and I heard their tone of voice, I would interpret that in a completely different way. It's just the human interaction is becoming less and less and less, and it's creating a lot of divide. The actual human interaction, as in face to face talking, I mean, not meeting people. You've only to look at pubs and stuff now. You know, you meet someone, your friends, well, like pandemic, you sort of meet your friends and you know everything about them that they've done all week already because you've seen it online. You fuck all to talk about. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, touching back on like social media and the whole like conspiracy, I don't want to say the word conspiracy. I only use that word, right, because my dad was like borderline mental, because he comes from the generation where he believes that if it's on the internet it must be true, because how else could it get there? You know what I mean? He doesn't know what it takes to get something on the internet. He's not from that computer generation. And I really do believe at this moment we're at like a hinge at the moment in what's going to happen in life, because you're coming out of a generation of people who are older and into a more internet informed generation who are like full of information, questioning everything. The next 10 to 20 years are going to be really interesting, because like I said, you have that shift in the generation gap sort of like going down and another one taking over, who are more informed people that are willing to question things. Like, I know it's a taboo subject about vaccines and COVID-19 and all the rest, but to me, the numbers don't add up. And the reason why I say that is because when you see it on the news, X amount of people have died, they always write in small under it, after testing positive, after 28 days of contracting a positive test of COVID-19, they never say this person died specifically of COVID-19. They always say after testing positive.
You could have been asymptomatic with no symptoms and you could have got tested, and then 20 days later you could be up on a roof, fall off the roof, fall off and die, and you're going down as you died of COVID. And in Ireland, the former Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar is his name, posted on his Twitter explaining that they counted every single death. I don't have the thing in front of me, but he said it on his Twitter that they counted all deaths, even when a case wasn't, or a test wasn't proven, whatever. So you're starting to think, right, these numbers aren't adding up. I want to start by saying, I don't think COVID is a hoax. I think
it's not. I know people have had it, man.
I fully believe that it's real, and I feel for people who have suffered from it, people who have lost loved ones, my empathy is with you, but something from when all this started last year, it just seems to me like there's something else going on.
It's weird, man.
The all the lockdowns, and what seems to me is a lot of small, medium businesses are being destroyed. And if you take a look, the rich are getting richer throughout all of this. The likes, I'd probably have the government knocking on my door now after saying this and putting this on this podcast, but I don't care. This is my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and I fully accept that. As I said, I don't think any of this is a hoax. I think it's really going on. But I think the numbers are being tampered with or jigged to fit whatever narrative the government wants to have out there.
I think the same, man. I completely agree with you. Now, there's two ways you could look at it. When you say about the big companies cashing in and making a lot of money, that could be just to the fact that they're complete opportunists and they're just like fucking... Most of them, these CEOs are absolute scumbags. Do you know what I mean? They'll fucking make money at any... It doesn't matter what the cost or whatever.
Psychopaths,
they're in there and they're taking advantage of it. So there's one way of looking at it. The other way is like... You know, the numbers I think are being manipulated, but for what? And I that's one thing I can't answer. I don't know why, but I'm like yourself, I sort of think that. Now, it'll be interesting to see, right, if they put this statistic up. So say someone gets a vaccine and they die a month later, are they going to put up such and such a person died within 28 days of taking the vaccine? I doubt it. You'll never see that statistic.
I'm not anti-vaxxer or anything like that. I'll speak to my doctor who has looked after me over the past few years. I'll get his professional opinion, and if he tells me it's safe to take, I'll take it, no problem. I'm not going to have my mind persuaded by what I read on the internet or from people telling me this is going to happen or that's going to happen. No, I'll speak to someone who I trust and who has taken care of me and my health over the past few years.
No, I'm the same, man. I'm not anti-vaccine either. I've had vaccines. I would say that over the last year or so I have become a wee bit sceptical, but it's only not based on what I've read, but just the fact that this vaccine's been rushed through a bit. I'm a bit sceptical on that front, but I'm not anti-vaccine in any way. My mum's a nurse, my sister's a nurse, do you know what I mean? Yeah. They're two medical professions. They'll be giving out vaccines, no doubt. Yeah. My mum will anyway. So I trust whatever she says, do you know what I mean? If she's had the vaccine, she had it like 2 weeks ago. She's obviously a frontline worker. So for me, like I said, I'm a bit like yourself. I just like to read things. I like to be cautious, man. I have a fucking family. I have a daughter to bring up. It's got nothing to do with conspiracy theories here or reading stuff on the internet. It's got to do with my health and that I'm here for as long as possible to provide for my daughter. I want to make sure that's rock solid. Do you know what I mean? And if there's anything that comes into the territory where it's going to put me in jeopardy, I want to research it, and I want to know about it. It's my body, man. Nobody can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. It's a decision for me to make. It's the same way as if it's a decision for me to go out and do something bad to my body, whatever. There's people doing it, and that's their decision. I don't question.
We did it for years, man.
I mean,
we did it for years when we were young.
I'm surprised I have a brain cell left.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I used to party for days, and I don't even know how I'm still here. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
No, that's actually something I meant to say to you. You've mentioned that you're a DJ producer. Do you remember your escapade into promotion when you booked me for a gig and there's about 5 people there?
Well, I'll tell you a few cracker stories. I actually met I'll just tell you how I get into music for a start, like into production. I met Jordan was Suckley on MySpace, and at that time Jordan was been groomed by Good Grief to be the next Eddie Halliwell. And there was no real Ableton back then or anything, and I was listening to Jordan's mixes and I was going, fuck, this guy is incredible. He was very up tempo, scratching all the rest, and it was exactly the buzz that I liked.
Yeah, it was the same. Because sorry to interrupt you. I was really close to Jordan then. Jordan used to come over and stay in my house, and we did loads of back-to-back gigs, and wild days. Yeah.
Well, and I booked, like you said, I got into not promotion, but just running nights, and basically the whole reason why I was doing it, wanted to make a few quid to set up a studio to start making music, because Jordan kept on to me on MySpace at the time through private messages saying, man, I'm telling you, forget about DJing, put your head into production, that's the way forward. The DJing will come after that. You're a good DJ, obviously, that'll just put that on ice at the minute and just get into production and make that be your main focus. And he was coming from England, and sort of I could see things shifting that way. So we booked Garth Emery to come over and play for us, and a good turnout. And Jordan came over, stayed at my house, and he played for us as well. And he was fucking unbelievable, man. He was one of the best technically gifted DJs I've ever seen. Still to this day, Jordan is a fucking phenomenal DJ. There's nobody can take it away from him. He just has that technicality and that presence. He's brilliant, and he blew me away, and he reminded me of myself when I first started getting into music and whatever. And he kept saying to me, leggy man, leggy dog, he calls me. Just, you need to get into the tunes, you need to learn how to make your own music. That's the way forward. So that was my that pushed me into sort of making my own music. And then I continued on running the nights, and I booked you, and I had you up for a night. I think Jamie drove you up that night, and just came back to my flat in Silverwood. I was living in Lurgan, Silverwood at the time, and I was drinking the green vodka. Do you remember?
It was the first time I had that Polish vodka. It has the stem. What
Zabrówka?
Yeah, Zabrówka. That's the one. Yeah, that's the first time I had that. But it's mad, man. That was the first time I met you, and then you ended up back in your apartment after, and then. That's room,
2008, man. That would be around 2008.
Yeah, man. I can't even look at that photo myself.
I have it here on my phone too. I can post it in the comments. You had the hair, man. You had the hair at that time.
I had everything, man. I had about an extra 10 kilos on me as well. But I remember that we went back to yours for a little bit of a party afterwards, and we were in the little deck room or the studio room that you had, and then it's mad to think then, like 6 years later, that was the room that we made Proper Order in and Next Level in. It's mad how life works out in the end.
It's crazy, man, because like I can remember when I first started out, I was buying everything, all the hardware, everything. I thought like I had all the gear, but I hadn't a fucking clue how to make music. And I just over time, like at one stage I had a Soundcraft Ghost mixing desk, the same as Giuseppe's, and I bought it off a guy in England for fucking 900 quid. He didn't even know what he had. Them things worth about $4,000, and I sold it for like $2,000 to these guys that were banned. And that sort of wee bit of a lift of money from that sort of funded my studio. I bought myself a Mac, bought myself some synthesizer, outboard stuff and whatever, and just got stuck into it. The music I was making at the start was fucking atrocious. I think I sent you a few tracks, and it was just a few guys that I trusted to give me feedback, and they weren't quite there, like, but I sort of like, all my friends were telling me they were amazing, and that's probably the worst thing you can do, send your mates your fucking music, because they're never going to tell you it's shit, like. And then Jordan gave me John's email, and I sent the tracks to John. I still have the email saved, the very first email John O'Callaghan sent me in 2009. And he said, man, these tracks are really, really good. I'm buzzing to find somebody new that's producing music in Ireland of this quality. And it was just around that time that he was launching the Subculture label on Armada. And he said to me, look, I want you to do me an EP because I'm launching this label. And that's when I made On the Tomorrow and Facelift. It were the two first tracks that John picked up. And, you know, credit to John, he sort of nurtured me. You know, he gave me really honest and critical feedback, which I really needed at that time. Helped sort of get my foot on the ladder. And then after I just sort of, you know, progressed, obviously. But that wee room, man, was fucking iconic. Like, oh God, like, you know, that seems so long ago when I think about that. Now, I was actually speaking to Kasia yesterday. It was her birthday yesterday, and we sort of had like a wee bit of a gathering. We're sitting.
It's my birthday as well. We share the same birthday.
I know, man. I sent you a message. I sent you a message as well. That's how I always remembered. You're probably going, this cunt's weird fucker remembered my birthday every year. It's just because it pops into my head because I know you share the same birthday. And I was just thinking to myself, man, it just seems like such a distant memory, and it really wasn't all that long ago, you know what I mean? But it's just, life is just progressing at such a fucking pace when you're in this industry that you seem to take a step back and forget how far you've came, and, you know, those sort of times. And this has given me a lot of time to really reflect on whatever, like, you know, on my musical journey and how far I've came, and the people, the amazing friends that I've met in the industry over the years, promoters and DJs alike. Still speak to a lot of them, you know, even now, you know, the promoters are still keeping contact with them, even though I'm not playing with them. Papa in Australia, I'll be messaging him and a few other ones, you know. Made some really good, amazing friends, like.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. What was I going to say there? My mind is actually after going blank. What were you saying there? My mind, I was trying to think of something else to talk about, and then I was trying to reference something else. So
we were talking about the time I brought you up to. We were touching on social media, and then we went on to me bringing you up to play the gig. And
sorry, no, I remember now what I was going to say. But I remember the thing about that room was, I don't know whether it was because you had really good speakers or not, but the sound sounded so good in it when we were making like Proper Order and Next Level. It's mad because that was just a normal room. Like, I'm sitting here in my studio, which Giuseppe Ottaviani helped me design. So like, I don't know, it cost me a good few quid, but I remember the sound in your studio being so amazing. So it's mad how certain spaces that can just have that magic sound in it, and you don't really have to do much to it. It's mad.
I'm in the process of doing my studio now as well. Giuseppe actually helped me with that as well, but he just gave me the design. I'm going to be doing all the work to it myself, all the panels and whatever. So it's that room. Believe it or not, I have the same speakers now that I used the Genelecs, right? Back then, I'm not sure if I had the Genelecs. I think I did, actually. We were making that track. But the acoustics in that room, I think it's something Giuseppe explained to me about the sweet spot in the room. The sweet spot was just fucking everywhere in that room. No matter where you stood, everything sounded incredible. I don't know why. When I moved here to the studio now, where I'm at now, I struggled, man. I couldn't get a kick and bass to sit for months. It was just my ears were so attuned. I ended up having to make music in my headphones, which is a bad idea for a while, just until I got myself comfortable. But yeah, man, it was just like, if I listen back to those tracks now, they're really well mixed down, even though they were like, you know, pretty basic tracks, but they sound pretty rounded compared to the tech stuff that I make now. It's just that room is just incredible sounding.
Yeah. And like, do you feel, are you comfortable in the studio that you're in now? You're saying you're getting Giuseppe to help you.
Well,
what is it?
It's the acoustics are good. You know, I've obviously written music in here now, and you know I'm comfortable with that. It's just the look of it, man. It's a fucking kip, and it's dusty as fuck. I don't know if you can see it. You can probably see it in the camera now. Those shitty tiles that you buy, they're just stuck everywhere, right? And it's just, there's no real plan of action. It's just like wherever there's a fucking bit of plaster, a tile is stuck over it. So over the years, I've noticed loads of dust in my studio, and they're gathering dust. Really, the spongy stuff is like gathering the dust. Speaking to a few guys, and they said that's what's causing the problem. So I'm just going to strip everything back, man, and make nice panels, and I want to make the space a bit more vibrant. It's pretty dark in here. The light's on now, but when I'm working, it's just like a bat cave. So I'm going to strip it all back, put a new lighter floor down, put the panels up, some nice lighting, just make it a wee bit more peaceful in here, and sort of like a nice workspace that I want to come into, because it is a bit dark and morbid at the minute. So I think that's just the general plan, is just to sort of jazz it up a wee bit and get the acoustics a bit better. You know,
you love doing all this stuff yourself, don't you? Because I'll give you a story about me. I'm not really the most what would the word be, instructionally gifted person that you would come across. So like
we have spoke about this man before loads of times.
So like I told the story in the last episode where it might have been the one before that, where it was New Year's Day, where I fell and hurt myself and making it take. I'm just laughing at myself a little bit. But then later on that day, the sink in the kitchen was blocked, and I got the plunger, and oh man, I just made things worse. I nearly flooded the kitchen. My mate is a plumber. He had to come down and fix it the next day, but it was literally just stuff was stuck in the pipe, but there was water going everywhere, and I was losing my mind and giving out to myself, and I was there, why did I do this? And so I won't be going near the kitchen sink ever again. But you're the opposite. You, like, even from seeing on your Instagram, you love building stuff and the construction thing, and you did like your TV and your fireplace and all that, and Australia, and like, I don't know whether is it me being lazy. I don't know whether
look, it's just, I think I love the creative process, right? And before I was always into music since I was 13, but I started working on building sites when I was 14 years old on the summer, you know what I mean? I used to work 2 jobs. When I started getting old enough, I worked in a chicken factory, packing chicken Kievs on a night shift just to get money to buy records and stuff. And then at the summer and the weekends, I would work with my dad on the construction site, and he was always had loads of properties going, whatever. So I went into the family business then after a while, and then eventually became a foreman of the sites. We have built over like 400 houses, do you know what I mean? Like, and I was overseeing a good part of that. Like, so I sort of like, through doing that, I not only got to learn from the process of how building is done, but actual behind the scenes, basically everything about it. So I sort of like came out of, whenever I'm a DJ and took off, I packed that all in. So I still have a real passion for it. And you know, my dad obviously massive into construction. My dad actually lost all his fingers when he was young, not young, but I think he was 35 or 40. You know those block grabs that come down, left the blocks, he got his fingers caught, and those took all his fingers off, and he couldn't hold a hammer, so his whole trade was gone. So the government gave him claim because he had the obviously loss of earnings, and he started a construction company, and that's how he got his foot on the ladder, and through that he built everything up. But he always had like a real passion for construction, and then I sort of followed in his footsteps. So I'm the sort of guy that if I don't know how to do it, I'll try it, do you know what I mean? I'll put my hand on anything. Like, see that fireplace and all, that was my first time doing anything, God, and even the fence that I put up at the front of the house, I've never done any. It was the very first time ever doing it. So I like to believe that, you know, I have that knowledge and know how to. I think if you have the basics and you can sort of like, you're willing to like, maybe it is a bit risky because you're playing a lot of money, but man, I really enjoy it. It gives me a balance from what I'm doing. Like there, for example, I've took on some work and I'm just in the studio or else I'm away doing something else, and it gives me a nice balance.
Yeah, I think like even like doing stuff like that, it can be really good for your head, because you're using your hands, you're thinking, you're putting stuff together, you're building something from start to finish. There's a feeling of accomplishment with it when you finish the job, and you get a bit of pride in yourself and stuff. Like even putting, like I got a set of the new Pioneer decks here beside me, even putting together the table for them the other day. Now, it took me a while to do it because I did it the wrong way, because I'm brutal at all this stuff.
IKEA job, was it?
Man, I don't know. I don't, like, the time just seems to fly by when you're doing stuff like that, and I just find it's
like you said, man, it's accomplishment. It's the sense of like the creative process, taking something from nothing and seeing something at the end of it is something that you will take a great sense of pride from, because you're involved in music. And even DJ sets to a certain extent, or a creative process, if you know what I mean, taking people on a journey, building the crowd, doing it's all a journey, creative process. Like I love working construction, man. Like I will come out of the studio and go into the house, and I would work to 12 o'clock at night in the house. I was just saying to you, they're covered in varnish, varnishing doors. I just love it, man. I just can't take myself away from it, and it's just, you know, it can become have a sort of obsessive personality where. And sometimes you need to give myself a fucking kick, like, and say, you know, your family, you need to spend a bit of time with your family here, because you're just, you know, doing your own thing and whatever, like, and you know, I have to pinch myself the odd time.
Yeah, I think creative people like yourself, myself, I think we're wired just a little bit differently at times, and just need to sort of cop on and be a normal human being at times as well. Yeah. We've talked about a lot of like, tragic things that have happened, but the most tragic thing for me last year was Liverpool finally winning the league after 30 years. So I'd just like to, you're a Liverpool fan.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because, well, maybe not now. This over the last couple of weeks, where Mum have had serious injuries and we're playing brutal football, very inconsistent, and United seem to have found a bit of form. In fact, all my friends and everything, I'll just get this in here, like all my friends, United friends, like they seem to have come out of their cave in the WhatsApp groups.
I've noticed that myself, man. There seems to be a lot more United hats flowing around, and I'm just saying to myself, right, where were you for the last few years when they weren't that good, you know? Like,
man, look, listen, I'm a massive football fan, and I speak to Neil Scarborough as well. He's a massive Liverpool fan, and like all my friends, most of them are Liverpool fans, and I can't even get into watching football now, man, because see, without the crowd and everything, it just doesn't have the same buzz. Like I'll just watch the highlights. I watched the United and Liverpool FA Cup match that you beat us. It could have went anyway. You know, the one finished was 3-2, and that was the first decent game of football that I've watched, because the two teams actually played pretty well, and it became the contest that it was all those years ago for the first time in a long time.
The game the week before that was terrible. Like, I think United probably should have won it with 2 late chances at the end, but that game at Anfield, I hate that game. Like I've historically hated Liverpool, and I probably always will. That's just from how I was brought up and the rivalry between the two teams. But it's a bit different now. I don't know whether it's since Gerrard left or something. I can't think of any one player off Liverpool that I actually don't like, or that I think is a bit of a dickhead. I think maybe Andy Robertson can be a little bit snide or a bit cheeky at times, but you know what? I'd love to have him on my team. I don't know. It's just a little bit different. But like that moment when they won the league last year, like Edel, my wife, obviously supports Liverpool, so she's had a good time with football over the past few years, whereas I haven't. But
man, listen, Liverpool played some unbelievable football last season. There's no one can take it away from them. The football they were playing was ridiculous. The fluent, so like. But see now, just this last like 4 or 5 games, I've just got to realise that we don't really have a squad depth, if you know what I mean. We don't have a bench, because we've picked up like 4 or 5 injuries there over the last couple of months, and the team just seems very disjointed at the minute. We had no real depth, because a lot of the players that won that league last year were starting every single game, and they've become knackered. They're tired now, you know what I mean? You can see the fatigue because there's no real rotation with Klopp. The odd player he'd rotate, but Man City have a ridiculous bench, you know what I mean? They have that depth, so I think it's going to be their year. United are coming back, man. I mean, I think Ollie's doing a decent enough job. I
can't see United win the league. I think
like,
I'm not getting carried away. I'll be honest. It's really good, and I found it like I'm obsessed with Man United and I'm obsessed with football, and it's one of my escapes from everything else going on in my life. I enjoy it. All I do is read football stuff all day long. But I'm certainly not getting carried away but with where they are. I think it's just a really strange season. Obviously anything can happen, but I'd be very surprised if they won the league. I'd be delighted, but as you were saying, if you come back to the point, it feels a little bit empty, with no crowds, man. Like it's the same as playing a gig in an empty club. It's the people that are at the event or at the match that make the game. You talk about
you're feeding off them.
Yeah. It's the atmosphere. It's never the people that are performing the action that are providing the entertainment. It's everything together, and it's the atmosphere in the crowd. It's all that type of stuff, and it just feels a little bit sterile watching football. Like United won that game 9-0 the other night, and I honestly just felt sorry for Southampton as the goals were going in, because it just felt like a training game or something. It was weird.
I know, man. It's like, I think the whole social aspect of watching football as well and going out with your mates for a pint and all, it all works in hand, and with no crowd and no social aspect involved, it's just like you're supporting your team, but you're just like tuning in to see if they won, but there's no, like, the rivalry isn't the same, you know. I used to have people tortured, do you know what I mean? We have WhatsApp groups and all there, and they used to be absolutely lit. You know what I mean?
It's not like it's like I used to be like that with some of my mates as well, but now we sort of just rationally discuss it, where there's no slaggings or anything anymore. Like, it's weird, but like, speaking about the United Liverpool game, like that's the game I've gone to at Old Trafford over the past couple of years. I went in 2018 when United won 2-1, and the year after it was 0-0, but that the 0-0 draw sort of affected Liverpool, because then they lost the league by a point. So it was but the atmospheres at those games, man, I wouldn't go to another game, say like United were playing West Brom or something. I want to go to a game that's on edge and you can feel the hatred and the tension, and like, I'm not an aggressive, violent person, but football gets me going and I really enjoy it, and just that atmosphere it's a nice release to have. And once the game ends, you usually sort of come back down to earth a little bit. But
I think, man, we should bring back the toilet roll challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was it you got? I think you got about 20 or something, wasn't it?
I got 21, but just took 2 off me because I had it off the wall. But I should have actually got 3 added on, because if you really look at that video, the interchanging of the feet when it comes off that wall is just fucking iconic. Like,
I think Jurgen Klopp will be on to you after this podcast to get you on. So maybe any go to centre half now.
Oh man, I used to play a bit of football back in the day, but I wouldn't say like, you know, the brain says yes now, but the feet say no.
Yeah.
Sorry, in your conservatory, toe tapping a bit of ball roll.
You can't even go and play anywhere now anyway. So I think that could wrap up the podcast for this week, man. But like, I just want to say thanks very much for coming on to the podcast and speaking about stuff that's so personal. And I really hope that speaking about it has helped you, and I just want you to know that if you ever need to speak about anything regards to that kind of stuff, I'm always there if you want to talk to me. But I just want to say, like, the best thing to do is I think your dad would be fairly similar to myself, whereas he wouldn't want you sitting around feeling sad. He wants you to just keep doing what you're doing and keep making him proud.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I've come to sort of like that point now where I'm turning grief into good memories, and you know, I really appreciate the chat we've had today, and I don't get to talk to many people about it. In fact, you're probably the only person that I have spoken to about it before this podcast, like a couple of months ago. So I know you're always there, and a few of my other friends are always there if I ever need an ear just to like fucking talk shit or whatever. And yeah, man, it's just like, let's hope times change and, you know, things, a bit more positivity going forward over the next X amount of months. That's all we're looking for.
Things always get better and they always work out in the end. So let's hope that happens over the next few months and things do get better. But like, thank you very much, man. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I said before, I keep my DMs open on Instagram if there's anything I can help you with, and if you are struggling with anything out there, please reach out to a mental health professional. And as I said before, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. So once again, thank you very much to Sneijder.
Thanks, guys.
And I'll speak to you in the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye bye.